One of the most important questions that people are asking now is, why is there an economic crisis? A year or two ago we were told boom and bust is over, wealth trickles from the top down, we're all secure, we're buying our own home and so on and so on, and the thing has gone wrong in a big way. Now there's no point in pinpointing individuals and blaming them, it was the system. And the system, we were told, was inevitable. We were told for a long time, government should keep out of all these things, leave it to the market. The market is the secret of success. And it turned out that that wasn't true. We now know that the banks were lending money they didn't have to people who couldn't afford to pay it back. The whole banking system was a sort of casino. And the idea, borrow and spend, and you're okay. And borrowing and spending had a number of consequences, one of which was that it introduced slavery of a new kind, because debt is slavery. And trade unions were prevented by legislation from getting wage demands that would have allowed them to get money they could spend without debt. Now, instead of having an adequate wage, they borrowed. And then when they borrowed, they found they were in debt. I mean, one very good example of it is the loans for students. A young person wants to go to university. What do? They give up 3 years' earning. They might be working in a supermarket filling shelves, low money, but they give up that money and they devote themselves to their studies. At the end, they end up with a debt. I mean, a doctor, I believe, graduating ends up with a debt of over £50,000. Marries another doctor, say, £100,000. Wants a mortgage to get a house, another £150,000. You start life with a debt of that kind. If you're in debt, you are absolutely at the mercy of your employer. Nobody's going to cause trouble. If as a result of that you got sacked, couldn't keep up your mortgage, you're dispossessed, you're unemployed. And I think that is something people understand now. Certainly young people resist the idea of the student loan. I tell you another thing that's wrong with it. Everyone's education benefits everybody. When I go to see my doctor, I benefit from her education. I mean, all right, if she becomes a millionaire, tax her for being a millionaire. Don't tax her because she's been educated. Every time I get in the bus, I benefit by the bus driver's education. And the realization that education benefits the whole of society is as big an intellectual leap as realizing the health of the nation is in our interest. Because if you meet somebody with an infectious disease who isn't being treated, you might be infected. And I think that realization of community coming out of experience is something. So then people say, well, what do you do about it? And then the answer is very, very simple. Look at all the things that need to be done. I mean, if every local authority was asked to make a list of things they would like to do in their own area, you'd have a list as long as your arm of jobs that needed to be done. And this is where I think the move from the idea of the market to the idea of doing things for need rather than for profit becomes a very political lesson. And the refocusing of our economy around people's needs is a revolutionary idea, but it's also a very simple, commonsensical idea. And I think people are beginning to understand that now from their own experience. So it's a very exciting time intellectually, but it isn't an ideological lesson you're trying to force on people. It's something that comes out of their own experience. And that's why I think young people understand more clearly, perhaps, than the older generation, how it's got to be approached.